Good morning and welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. Welcome to today. Today is, I believe, Saturday, June 25th. Wasn't going to make an Ag Talking Raw today. Wasn't going to make any video today because I got a lot of work to do, but I just felt the need to come on here and discuss a few things while drinking the morning coffee, or slurping as the English like to say. Anyway, so what are we talking about today? I don't know. How's the year going? I've seen some pretty crappy crops. I went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania the other day, down around Lidditz, and probably the most uneven crop I've ever seen out there. By the time we got up to Richland, the crops looked pretty good. And up there towards Myerstown, Lebanon, up in that area, it looked pretty good. They didn't look bad at all. Corn looked good, beans looked good, and but Lidditz and down through Adamstown, that's not so hot on 320 or 222. But whatever. We could. Just saw a neighbor's crops over here, and it looks like, he smoked off his soybeans for some reason. I don't understand that, but he just grows soybeans and wheat, and he has mulch hay. But if he's watching, he knows who I'm talking about. But wow, I'd be worried. I know what I did to my soybeans on that 55 acres pissed me off, but that was my own fault. I should have cleaned the tank a little better. Half-naked wife coming through. Shake it, shake it, shake it.
I'm shaking shit. Okay.
Sexy woman. Anyways, does God know you pray in those clothes? Anyway, shh, quiet. That's what she says. Anyway, he smoked them off. I mean, hundreds of acres just wilted down to the ground. I don't know if they're going to survive. They probably will. It's none of my business anyway. It was an observation that took me back about 5 steps. Like, whoa, I thought I effed up, So a lot of negative comments on my One Lonely Farmer channel. And one in particular kind of annoyed me, but I should read it because it annoyed me. It annoyed me in a way that doesn't. A lot of people, I can read a lot of comments, a lot of negative comments. People, from criticizing my wife to criticizing the type of clothes that I wear and the stupid hat that I wear when I wear my stupid hat, or whatever. And that stuff doesn't really bother me. But when you do insult my intelligence about farming and trying new things and understanding the way the world works, that kind of annoys me because I live in this world. I'll be 50 on the 5th of July, and my wife wants me to throw a party, and I'm this close to wanting to do it, but I'm afraid I just don't have the time. She says I'm only 50 once, but I could be 50 again next year. It's easy enough. Just lie. Isn't that what the world expects? Isn't that why the world is so messed up, that they're so used to being lied to that when the truth hits them, they get upset? That's like, wow. Here's another thing. Why do people are so passionate about killing unborn babies? The overturning of the Supreme Court's decision my lifetime ago, I think was a good idea because it wasn't constitutional to begin with. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that a woman has a right to kill a baby, or a doctor has the right to kill a baby. It should be left up to the states in which you live. And then I heard the drunk Speaker of the House talk about the hypocrisy of the court, how they could take one constitutional subject and throw it down the toilet and then uphold another. Well, the difference is, I'm talking about the Second Amendment, the difference is the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's written in the Bill of Rights. It doesn't say in the Bill of Rights you can murder an unborn child. It's just, that is what it is. And why are people so passionate about killing an unborn child? It just baffles my mind. There's a solution to this. And there's older people my age that are like, oh, I fear for my daughter's health. There's two ways to deal with this. Don't have sex, unprotected sex, or sex at all if you're too stupid to wear protection. If you are a young couple that's looking to be married and have a family, be smart about your decisions to have sex and how you have sex and what you're going to do in the event that you do actually become pregnant or impregnate your lover. It's called family planning. If you don't want a family, plan against the sex, or take major steps towards it, and understand the consequences of pregnancy. Not the way out of a pregnancy. The way out of a pregnancy is kind of brutal, painful to the dying child. I'm a father, of 4 children, and one that I wasn't part of, but 4 children that I helped create. And before I became a father of either one of those children, any of those children, I was like, oh, well, if you get pregnant, just go have an abortion. Because I was young and dumb and didn't understand the full scope of a life of a child, and how you can watch them grow and develop and become either the most evil bastards you ever want to see or the most wonderful children that you could imagine. And it all comes from you and your wife or your partner or whatever it is you have, your girlfriend or your fiance or your wife. So there's some sad times for the last 50 years where it had become so standard to say, oh, I'm pregnant. Well, don't worry, because for $150 I can have this little problem taken care of. Well, that little problem could have been the joy of your life. Of course, it doesn't matter whether you're married or not. Children can bring you great joy or great pain. Trust me, I know both sides of that coin. And it's really sad that when you put, the best of what you have into your children and they turn on you, but, they're still your children, and in some part of your life, heart, you still care for them and love them. But when you kill a child and you can't ever forget it, it will weigh on you for the rest of your life. What if, and I know some people that have had abortions, and, it's a mentally taxing thing. It's not really what this live stream's about, but it just kind of popped into my head as I was making it that, what if my mom and dad had an abortion and I didn't exist? All these people that watch me almost daily here wouldn't have any entertainment, right? Or would they even know? Probably wouldn't even know that I never existed. And I wonder sometimes, what happened if I was never conceived and became the person that I am? Because I do have 4 children and they would never exist. And, could you imagine the tragedy of that? Maybe if you're one of my children, you would understand that tragedy. I work hard and I have my opinions and views on things. And don't align with other people's opinions and views, and that's okay, because you know what? It takes all kinds of people to make the world go round, and I do invite other opinions, but there are some people that are just not even educated enough in what they're talking about that shouldn't comment on my channel, and I will bring that to this comment, which I'm going to read to you. It's by 345 Farm. He's uninformed and ignorant, is what I can say, because he can say these things and it's fine. He says, "This fool does not speak for the East Coast." I live on the East Coast. I speak for my area in the East Coast, and I've stated that before. I don't speak for your area, the East Coast, but my area, I do. I'm on the East Coast, and my farm land does not look like that. Well, I wouldn't expect it to look like that, like what you saw in that video, because wherever you are on the East Coast, maybe your situation is a little different. Just 3 miles to my north, it's a more sandy loam soil, and to the south, it's more of a red clay soil than it is in my area. They don't have any rocks down 3 miles to my south. They're just, well, southeast. No rocks down there. I farm down there. I know. The most difficult land that I do farm is that particular farm that is in that like 2 mile radius around that farm. It's tough stuff. It's tough land down there. It's hilly ground. It's erodible ground. And that's why I used that particular farm to make that video. Let's see. Living off Dad and Grandpa's hard work and land makes you an expert, I guess. Living off my dad and grandpa's hard work. Well, you're wrong there. That's where your ignorance is. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, that puts me 4th generation here on this particular place. They were farmers. Well, my great-grandfather, I don't know about my great-grandmother. I don't believe she was a farm girl. But back then, everybody had a hand in agriculture. But my great-grandfather in Hungary, he was a farm kid. He was raised on a farm there, and his father was farmers, and his father before him was farmers, and his father before them were farmers. They were always farmers. Now, there were aunts and uncles that went off the farm to do other things in the Czech lands of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Yes. And before that, if you notice, my eyes are blue. Well, my grandparents' eyes were blue. And the names Pandy and Ellis, that was my great-grandmother's last name, was Ellis. They're actually Welsh English names. Pandy is an old Roman name for a person who made felt in the English countryside and during Roman times, hundreds of years ago. And Ellis is a Welsh name. And yeah, so if you go back into the history and the area, which I have gone in England, if you remember a few years ago in my One Lonely Farmer channel, 2016, I believe, right after Donald Trump became president, we were there, and it was a very nice area around King Arthur's Stone is up there. Just a beautiful area, but that is where my family had originated from, and yes, they were farmers. So I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of generations of my family are farmers. I am 4th generation farmer here in this country. Now on my mother's side, on this particular farm, I'm 4th generation. But if you go back even farther, my relatives are Edward Marshall, and it goes back even farther than that here on my grandmother's side. So, and that's a Weaver side, and that would be Pennsylvania Dutch or German, Weaver, German, and yeah, so whatever. So I don't need to get into the specifics, but farming on one farm does not make you just a 4th generation farmer. It makes you the 4th generation on that particular farm. Yeah, so I just love the ignorance of this person. So what do they say about the 3rd generation? Oh yeah, look it up. As if I don't know. Okay, so first generation, it takes 2 generations to build a business and 1 generation to squander a business. That's what this idiot is talking about. So I guess my dad would have been the one to squander the farm, even though, he is the 3rd generation. He didn't squander the farm. He farmed. He did. He still does. With me. Not so much anymore. But he still climbs up in that tractor and does what he wants to do. And that's his right. I am the farmer here. I have been for many years. I haven't gone broke yet. Made some decisions that were wonderful decisions. And then I had decisions that were made for me that were not wonderful decisions. And you just need to make the decisions to get out from under those decisions that were made for you. Right? And I'm talking about ex-wives and, ex-girlfriends and, those decisions that really kind of rock you pretty hard. And then you have the decisions on the markets that you're supplying to and how they start to mistreat you, and you look for different things, i.e., when they started to mistreat me, I started to go to other states to do custom baling and stuff, which worked out really good until they got comfortable with me and then decided that they didn't really want to pay what the job was worth, so I stopped that. And you move on to different crops, and you look for the most efficient way of doing something. May not be the prettiest, but it definitely was the most efficient way. And this idiot 345 farm, how much did it cost you to plant 3 times and spray 2 times? This just blows my mind. Okay, I didn't plant anything 3 times. Okay, so I will explain this to your little, potato chip sized brain as to what happened on one farm. And I actually consulted an agronomist on this. Yes, an agronomist. I actually decided that maybe somebody could help me out a little bit better than what my own skills. I wasn't second guessing my skills as a farmer. I was just reaffirming what I thought had happened. So on the farm that this man is saying I planted 3 times, technically I guess I did, but it doesn't much matter to me. I'm going to do the best that I can with what I've got, and like I've said in the past, that I will not sacrifice a crop or land for my ego, and I'm not going to do that. Just roll with the punches and move on with what we're doing and do the best that we can. And please don't put a bunch of comments in here saying, stop feeding the trolls. It's not feeding the trolls. This is educating a moron. That's what this is. It's educating a moron. I'm the teacher. This is my channel. I will teach what I feel needs to be taught. So planting 3 times. So the first time I planted the soybeans on that particular farm. Now this farm has had 2 years of corn. And prior to that, it had 18 years of corn, wheat, or soybeans and wheat. And the former farmer, and if he's watching this, you're an idiot, and you know who you are. He has propagated a mare's tail, a tolerant mare's tail population that I have to deal with, and that will be coming pretty soon. But I'm not even going to post what I do there because people are tired of watching me spray. As a matter of fact, I'm tired of watching me spray. It's a tedious job that nobody really wants to watch anyway. So anyway, with that being said, planted soybeans, and they just struggled and struggled and struggled to come up. The ground got hard as a rock. I mean, just like hard as a rock. And I thought, man, I put those things in too deep. Well, honestly, I didn't feel that I put them in too deep. They were about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 deep. I mean, we're talking 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches. It's what it is. And a 750 drill, sometimes a 750 drill, they're not. They're. If you look at a 750 drill, the gauge wheel is offset to the side and back. So if there's a rut or a ditch or something, it'll dig that thing in 4 inches, 3 inches deep before it catches to the gauge wheel and pop up over. And there's, whatever. I don't need to explain a 750 drill. They're 30 some years old now, and they work really good if they're maintained correctly, and which mine is. But anyways, I felt that they were too deep. So what I did when they didn't come up evenly, and I thought, man, these things are just struggling. And why are they struggling? Because the other two places that I put these beans were not struggling. Well, they struggled to come up, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I've got good stands and no replant. The one field that does have a replant, let's see, what did Teresa replant on the home farm? 2 fields. On the home farm, she replanted. And it just was like, what the heck is going on here? So when those beans did finally come up and get rolling, then you could see that there was a chemical burn on those soybeans. So we decided that we would replant them. And we did. I shallowed it up to 1.5 inches, inch and a quarter, 1.5 inches, about 1.5 inches is where I'm at. Because I don't like them being any shallower than 1.5 inches, especially when you're rolling on the biomass that I'm rolling over, because you can be mashing down 1/2 inch of grass, and then those beans are only getting in 1 inch. And if you go too fast or you hit a rut or something, then the beans lay on top of the ground and they never get in the ground. And that's useless because they won't produce anything. They just die. So on the second plant, they came up and they did look really okay, except the edges of the leaves were curled and the centers were coming up white, bleached. So I thought then that it was a residual herbicide damage from the year before. Now, if you notice, the year before I had corn on that place, and I used a product called Lumax, the Stalwart 3W or whatever, but that's the generic Lumax, and it has Callisto in it, and Callisto is a bleacher. It will bleach the bleach soybeans. Now, they will come out of it, and they have come out of it. I've used a foliar feed, and that foliar feed said, hey, I can fix this, and it has. So I'm pretty happy with the way they look today. Really happy with the way they look today. But yeah, so I planted twice the soybeans. But then I had a problem with the spray tank. Like, I thought I had it cleaned out good enough, but I didn't have it cleaned out good enough, and it annoyed me. But it smoked off the 55 acres of of soybeans that I had replanted, so I screwed up. And then I just said, F it. I'm going to put corn into it because Lumax is a corn herbicide. If it's still there, if it is still there, it will not bother the corn. And the soybeans that are there, they're not doing well, so they can just live there because they are a Roundup Liberty resistant Extend soybean. So there's really not much I can do to kill them. And I thought, well, you know what? I don't really need to kill them because we have, in the world there are farmers that use these things called companion crops. A companion crop in corn is one of them is soybeans, and the other is crimson clover and other nitrogen fixing legumes. So peas, I've seen them put peas in as a companion crop. So I figured, I'm just going to leave these beans to live here as a companion crop. The corn's going to come up, it's going to blast through it, it's going to attach to those nitrogen fixing nodules and just have all the nitrogen it needs. And that's an experiment. So did I lose anything? I don't think so, because I'm not going to put any I'm not going to side dress any nitrogen to that farm. Which I will be side dressing some corn, not all the corn, but some corn I will be, where I was unable to get the compost and the lime that I wanted to put on there. So what happened is when I limed that farm and I put all the compost on that farm at the rate of about 7 tons to the acre of the compost, which is, perfect for soybeans. I was only going to do 2.5 tons, but I put 5 to 7 tons. Well, 5 to 7 tons is 600 pounds of gypsum to the acre. 600 pounds of gypsum. 600 pounds of gypsum. Gypsum releases nutrients from the clay particles, and it doesn't raise pH, but the lime does. So when the lime raised the pH and the gypsum releases the nutrients and the chemical from those clay particles, then it can become active again in the soil by raising the pH and actually burn the crop, the cash crop that you've got in the ground. So that's what happened there. Now, spraying 2 times. Common practice in every farm operation is to spray at least 2 times. So the first time in a no-till operation is your burn down. And I always had intentions of spraying the soybeans twice. Corn, not so much, but soybeans twice. It's in the budget to spray the corn twice. It was always there, just didn't want to. So what did it cost to plant those beans twice? Well, I cut the rate down to half of what it was the second time. So at a unit, per unit, it cost me $75 for the planting, about $75 an acre for the planting of the soybeans. That's 2 plants for the soybeans. And as for the corn, 2.5 acres per bag, or per 80,000, because I used 30,000 plants to the acre. I cut my rate back because I just felt that the population was a bit too high last year. I was going to go to 32,500, but I changed my mind. I just said 30,000 because I've reduced the inputs. Therefore, I want those plants to have as much, the nitrogen that's there will really concentrate on those ears. And I've had good luck at 30,000 and 32,000, but because I was not going to put any more nitrogen on than what I had to. And I'm not going to put any more nitrogen on that one. So to plant that, it's $236 a bag. So you're looking at $100, not even $100 an acre for the corn. All right, so I got $175 an acre into the corn, and I don't really need to explain this, but with the plant to plant the corn and what the effed up soybeans on 55 acres. 55 acres. We're talking 55 acres. It cost me, for that mess up, it cost me about $100 more per acre to produce this crop. Oh well, oh well. $7 corn, 150 bushel, 175, 200 bushel corn, depending on what it is, and the water weather. Soybeans are canopying or shading the soil to keep it cooler and conserve moisture. Yeah, conserving moisture. Yeah, one of those things that you may or may not understand. The same thing with planting through the grass. So yeah, it was a mess up. It was a screw up that I'm going to come out on top of. That's just it. But yeah, that's it. So I think I've explained about 10 minutes at a time too long on a guy by the name of 345 Farm who has no content. He's probably about, in my guesstimation, he's probably somewhere between 25 and 35 years old, and he's a miserable little shit ass who is farming under his father or grandfather. That's what I think he is. And he can't prove to me any other way unless he actually posts videos showing his face. I'm 50. I'm 50 years old. I'm a 4th generation farmer in this country, on this farm, and that's what I am. I do things differently than my grandfather and my father did, and my great-grandparents did, because my great-grandparents farmed with horses. My grandfather farmed with farmals, and my grandfather farmed with farmall H's or M's. They farmed with M's. My father farmed with 4430s, 4320s, 4450s, those series tractors, and I farm with 6210Rs, 8120s, and those generation of tractors. And they're all, if you understand the progression, they keep getting bigger, and I keep expanding the farm. So when I expand the farm, am I squandering anything? No, I'm advancing, you asshole. Anyway, there you go. That's enough. That's enough of that guy. So anyways, I will touch on some of the erosion stuff. When I made that video yesterday, I specifically stated I am not, or get this, I am not telling anybody how to farm their ground. I'm not. I am telling you that there is going to be a huge push in the coming years to actually do away with tillage. They're going to do it. Whether you like it or not, they're going to do it. The equipment is already set up for it. All the equipment that is made today, all of it, is no-till capable. Very no-till capable. Yes, you can buy some conventional planters and all the conventional tillage equipment you want, because that's where these companies make their most money. Is it going to get you higher yields? It's going to cost you more for that higher yield. Just remember that. It is going to cost you more for that higher yield. I would rather minimize my inputs, not maximize my yield. I don't need to maximize my yield. But if I minimize my inputs and get an average yield or a respectable yield, as long as the yield is, is high enough, and it will be, that my profit margin isn't like this, it's like this. That's where I want a bigger profit margin. It doesn't matter what it cost me to plant that second planting of soybeans, or even the first and the second planting, the $75 worth of soybeans. You do realize that dyed diesel fuel right now is $5 a gallon. It's $5 and change a gallon. Dyed diesel fuel is 73 cents cheaper than road fuel. And we are at $6 and $6 plus road fuel. I think $6.9. I saw a $5.99 yesterday, and I saw $6.49. So 73 cents off of that. We're still $5.25, $5.35 a gallon for dyed diesel fuel. By the time I chisel plow, disc it twice, roller harrow it, and then plant, those three operations at, chisel plowing, you're going to put a couple gallons. There's $10. Every bit of 10 gallons. Or 2 gallons, 10, 20. You're looking at $25 an acre just in diesel fuel, and that's not including the wear and tear on the equipment. And you have to add that in. Those discs, those twist shovels, those roller harrow bearings and rollers and teeth on that thing, they all cost money. You have to add those in. The nice thing about no-till is that in the fall, you're not going to be fighting mud so much, and that's a fact. The ground is a little firmer, that the surface tension of the soil is a little firmer. Below it still, once you break that surface tension or the ground tension, you're going deep. But you can get stuck. Anyhow. Yeah, and I will continue to update people on my crops, and people will continue to say, oh, well, he's not going to have any yield. No till, no yield. Well, I've done 80 bushel beans on no-till back before the deer. Yeah, I've done 80 bushel beans conventional till. I've done 60 bushel beans no-till with deer. You just got to shoot the hell out of them. Now, I haven't shot any deer this year, not yet. Did I? I might have cracked a couple rounds off to scare them. I've been using the bird bangers by Reed Joseph, and they'll scare them off pretty good. And I do have another product that I've used, and it seems to work very, very well. I rained on it, and it still works. I'm pretty impressed with that. And it took the encroaching deer off of the farms. It's expensive, but it worked. And I'm not going to release what that is, but it messes with their head. And it's like they feel there's a predator in the field, and that's what does it. And, before, just using a shell cracker or a screamer siren at the deer, they would look at you like, that's nice. Now with that product I put out there, I go out and I don't even think I need to send the screamer siren up. I just hit the blank and they're on edge already, so they take off. But yeah, so that's how we're dealing with those. And the beans look really, 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 really good. My secret sauce works really, 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 really good too. I'm going to be putting more of that down on the soybeans. That's coming. I just feel like I'm in that sprayer. Like, oh my God, I'm on this sprayer constantly. It's driving me nuts. I want to get off the sprayer and get on to hay, but I haven't been able to do that. And that's what I'm going to do this morning anyway. So, yeah. Here's one. Topsoil has built organic matter from leaves falling off of trees for millions of years. Come to Kentucky, got millions of year of topsoil in the mountains because the country is a distribution center to build all these big warehouses to sit empty. I guess I don't know what's going on in Kentucky. I haven't been through there since February, and I didn't even notice any warehousing. But yeah, I think I did, maybe out where in the cities and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Yes, the organic matter. Okay, you have organic residue or biomass, and then you have organic matter. Okay. And I've explained this before, but people think that I'm just a jackass that doesn't know anything. But that's okay. Keep thinking I'm a jackass that doesn't know anything. Organic residue does not equal organic matter. If you look out across the field and you see a mat of corn fodder that has been there since last fall and it is now almost July, that is not organic matter. It's not. That's organic residue or biomass. It will become a portion of the organic matter that is in your soil, but it isn't going to equate like, oh my God, I've got 6 tons of organic residue on that soil. I'm going to have 5% organic matter in no time at all. You can actually reduce your organic matter in the soil by having that on there. Yeah, isn't that weird? So the microbiome needs a lot more than that biomass that's on top of the soil. It does, and there's a lot of people that are just so uneducated that they think that biomass then equals organic matter. Doesn't. It can, and it would if your soils are healthy. I'm probably going to lose a few people here. You're not going to like what I got to say. From my educational standpoint, what I've learned about organic matter and organic residue is you can actually lose organic matter by growing corn, even though you have all that residue on top of the soil. It needs to be able to be broken down. So organic residue becomes organic matter when something eats it and poops it out. That's what it is. It's organic matter. So the fastest way to get organic matter in your soil is to actually have a living root in your soil, i.e. cover crops. Cover crops. Cover crops. Planted after your cash crop, wintered on, and then allowed to pull that carbon out of the air. CO2, carbon, is very important in the life of your microbiome. Without it, you don't have the microbes to break down your organic residue to create organic matter. So, guys that go out in the fall, see a weed in the field, I got to spray. That weed is there for a reason. Unfortunately, it is there for a reason. We don't want weeds. I mean, we really don't want weeds. We want cultivars. I mean, things that we want on that soil that will take the carbon dioxide out of the air, convert it into, or pull it out of the air, and then put it into the soil so that the microbiomes, the mycorrhizal fungi, and all the little bacteria and all that other fun stuff that's down there that feeds on that mycorrhizal fungi, they need carbon. They need carbon. So when you kill your soil or kill the weeds off your soil, there's no CO2 that's going to get into that ground. And you have a massive die-off in your microbiome, and it never gains traction. So just think of it like you get up in the morning and you drink a cup of coffee, right? This is my breakfast, the breakfast of champions, the strongest coffee you'll ever freaking drink, right? And that's all you drink is that cup of coffee. So you've got this high amount of energy, you know? And then A couple hours later, you're like, oh, gotta feel so sluggish. I'm either gonna have to eat something or I'm gonna drink that cup of coffee. But damn it, my wife went to the beach today and I'm out in the middle of this field and I'm too stupid to pack a lunch because I'm lazy or in a hurry. I don't pack a lunch and now I start to get really sluggish. Well, that's what happens when you kill off the cover. Your ground heats up and it gets like too hot and they just don't want to work. They're going to be like your wife sitting on that beach like this. Burning. Oh, this feels so good. Until she gets home at night and she's like, oh my God, I burned myself. Could you put this Noxzema on me? I'm cooked. You know, that's what your microbes are doing. The other thing is, not only are they like this, cooking, they're like, man, I could use some sugar, some caffeine right now because, it's running low in here. I don't feel so good. So the sun is cooking the shit out of this stuff. Your mycorrhizal fungi and all the bacteria is getting cooked because the temperature of that soil, once it hits about 85, that's when that stuff starts to die off. Barren ground will heat your soil to literally 110 degrees. Even if it's 85 degrees outside, your soil could be 100, 110 degrees. It gets hot, creates a crust, pulls the moisture out. That's another thing. Not only are those microbes laying in the sun with nothing to eat, they're dehydrating. Okay? So, yeah, there's a problem there because you really want them to be hydrated. So what happens then is they die off because you've got barren ground. Your rhizosphere is collapsing. Your aggregates start to collapse because there's nothing there to propagate the mycorrhizal fungi. The bacteria has died. It's moved deeper. It's just, there's nothing for it to eat down there because there's no roots in the soil to put the carbohydrate or the sugars and the carbons down into that soil to feed it. And then it just goes, and that's why we have rock hard soil. That's it. Rock hard soil that way. So by me planting through my hay fields, I have created a biomass and a shield from the sun and the pounding rains because as that just think of it as a, you ever have a sister, sister or brother, and you get into a water balloon fight or you got the garden hose and you're squirting your brother and your sister and they run into the house and they slam the screen door and you spray through the screen door and your mother's yelling and carrying on at you. But when it hits that screen door, it just turns into tiny little particles and blasts all over your living room or kitchen or whatever it is you've got. That's what that biomass does, that matting. And that's what your residue, that residue on top of your soil does. It stops that rain from pounding the soil hard. That's why you have surface compaction that goes down about an inch deep. That's why you get crusting. That's why it's hard for corn to emerge through crust and soybeans to push their way up through crust. I have no problems with crusting where I went through that hay at all. None. Because down the road, half a mile from where I've got corn that's this tall growing through grass that nobody sees. You can't see it. They just think that the hay matured and died unless they saw me planting corn out there. I put my knees on the ground. My knees come up wet. But I go down the road a half a mile to where that corn is. It's withering. It was withering. We got a little bit of rain yesterday, or the day before yesterday. It was withering. It was curling. Corn's not going to curl because I have that shield from the sun. And those microbes in that soil, they're just happy as larks. Happy as larks. They're out there. They're just like, hey, you know what? It's nice and cool in here. It's 75 degrees. I'll take my thermometer out and stick it in the ground. I'll show you. Two different areas. One where it's barren soil, and the other where it's covered by grass. I will do that for you all. And I will show you what it looks like. I just got to find my thermometer because my wife cleaned my truck and it's probably ended up in the abyss. But anyways, I think you guys have heard enough of my craziness today. Are my crops going to be perfect? No, they're not. Just so you know, my crops are not going to be perfect. It's not going to look perfect. It isn't going to look perfect. It doesn't look perfect. Is it going to be profitable? In all my calculations, I will make more than the guy down the road that has a perfect stand. Especially if we get a drought. If it goes into drought season, like August and we don't get rain for 2-3 weeks, my corn, my soybeans will be just fine. They will be okay because they have that biomass on top and they have a microbiome that's underneath. It's just chewing away, breaking down that phosphate, potassium, zinc, all those other things that are tied up in that organic residue, and they will be exuding or eating and pooping all that crap, that biomass out, and increasing my organic matter because they will have plenty of carbon being pulled out of the soil. And when I do or out of the air and put into the soil, and when I do take the beans off, wheat goes in. After the corn comes off, rye goes in, and then we go into something different. And I hope everybody sticks around to watch this because my cheese has not slid off my cracker. This is an educated process. I did not just wake up one morning and say, I'm pissed, I'm killing my hay. You know, it took me 3 years to be that pissed off. And I haven't killed all my hay. I still have a couple thousand acres to deal with. But the best ground that I have that I'm able to put row crops on, that's what I've done. I even put it in some shitty ground. That ground with that big ass rock that's in there, that ain't the greatest ground, trust me. And it is a deer hole, and I have to spray that today. So anyhow, I have to put down the foliar today, just so y'all know. Anyway, so that's that. Yeah, the beans are up. I mean, they look like that. They're perfect. They're beautiful. Anyway, I'm out of here. Have a nice day.